Hey guys, this is the part 2 to our phase 2 discussion. If you have not seen the first part, be sure to check that out. Let us segue into
Guardians.
Another very, very good movie that, at least me personally, I thought was going to be terrible. I thought the trailers, in my mind, did no justice. Coming off of Winter Soldier, you have the end credit scene that introduces Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch.
I don't like them.
Well, that's a hot take, Cole.
It is a hot take. We'll talk about that.
And, like, all of a sudden, we get a Marvel movie that's set in space with a bunch of different aliens. Mm-hmm. Like, I guess I was just riding the high of Winter Soldier and all the crazy, like, S.H.I.E.L.D. stuff that went down, that when I saw the trailer for that, I was like, I don't want to see some walking tree. Like, I want to see where that went. But then I ended up seeing it through random, circumstance, and it ended up being one of my favorite Marvel movies. Yep. So yeah, let's jump into it. So what did you guys think of Guardians of the Galaxy?
Love the movie. My biggest problem with the movie is simply the fact that it took one of my favorite characters out of Parks and Rec significantly.
But
good point. Really good point. But, like, he thrived in this movie.
Absolutely.
Obviously, we're talking about Chris Pratt, by the way, if that went over any of your heads.
And this definitely helped him get the main part in Jurassic World as well.
Absolutely. Between this and Jurassic World, he never has to work again. If he just is conservative.
Please do, though.
Yes, please. You're still really good.
We'd love it if you kept up your work. I actually love every Guardian of the Galaxy.
Like the characters?
All of those actors that did that part. Wow, great job.
Yeah, because it is a very dynamic group of people. You have
all the misfits, if you will.
Yeah, you got Bradley Cooper, who's playing Rocket the Raccoon, who's personally my favorite Guardian. You have Chris Pratt playing Star-Lord, Vin Diesel with a massive vocabulary,
almost as large as his actual vocabulary.
Yeah. Yes, very true. Glad someone else thinks that. Dave
Bautista?
Dave Bautista, yes, as Drax, who is also incredibly funny.
Yep.
And Zoe Saldana, yes, as Gamora, and it's just all around. It's a very, very fun movie. I don't really, to be honest, know what else to say about it other than just it being a really fun movie. It sets up some more Infinity Stone stuff that we need to know about.
Thanos for once is in the movie.
Yeah. I think
not just a credit afterthought.
Yeah. I guess in reality my only complaint was Ronan wasn't really that effective of a villain type thing.
No, because they wanted to make Thanos seem bigger and badder. So how are you gonna have two? The big
good
baddies?
thing, compared to the Dark World, the humor and the characters elevated the story a lot more than, and were able to compensate for the weaker villain. But that's also because Ronan was nowhere near as boring as Malekith was in the first place, so that's a plus.
Does Ronan have any bearing in the comics, Nate?
I mean, he is just one of many Kree villains.
So that's all there is to it in the comics, at least.
I mean, there have been times where he's been a major. Not like a galactic or universal threat like Thanos, but
I guess what I'm saying is that there's nothing in the comics that vastly changes our opinion of him in the MCU, right?
No, nothing that
nothing that they just left out that is whoa, that completely.
I mean, I
changes
haven't
his
read.
character.
I know I've read a lot of comics, but I haven't read every comic, so I can't promise you there's nothing.
Hold on a second. Stop the episode. What did you just
You're our comic source, Nate. Damn it. But no, I mean, this movie it has a lot of other actors outside of the main cast that are still really good. You have
John C. Reilly.
Yeah, John C. Reilly.
Corman Roman Day.
Yes, you have.
I don't think they ever even said his full name.
I don't think they ever said his name either. He was just kind of like that guy that's like, "Hey, I have kids. Can you save it?
Yeah.
Can you save my planet?"
Is this Is this the one that Peter Serafinowicz is into?
Yeah, he...
As just the guy?
I think he's one of the Nova Corps guys, too.
Yeah, because he you're talking about the guy that calls them a bunch of a-holes, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
He goes, what's a bunch of a-holes?
Yeah.
By the way, I'm gonna plug this show. There was only one season. I'm sorry, it's British, so there was only one series of this program.
Right.
And 6 episodes. Have you seen the Peter Serafinowicz show, Brendan?
I have not, no.
Okay.
Hilarious.
Well, you know what? I might hold you hostage and make sure you watch at least some clips. But Peter Serafinowicz, talk about funny. I don't think there's anyone in the MCU, any actor, that's funnier than Peter Serafinowicz.
Uh-huh.
Based on his 6-episode show from the BBC.
Big talk.
That's... Wow. I mean... I'm all for it.
He is hilarious, and if you watched the Tick series on Amazon,
that's where I knew him.
He was
yes.
the Tick, and not as very funny as the Tick, but the whole point of the Tick is that the Tick isn't trying to be funny, so
right.
It's a little bit understated. But everyone should check out the Peter Serafinowicz show. He also Peter Serafinowicz was in Parks and Rec as one of the reasons that Andy / Chris Pratt was away from the series for a while.
Was he with the police force?
He was like he was British royalty.
Holy crap! You're right. He's the rich guy.
Yeah.
Oh yes.
So that's funny. I wonder if they brought him in directly because he was in the movie that was taking Chris Pratt away.
Yeah, I mean, that'd be kind of funny. Yeah.
But yeah. Actually, my big problem with this movie isn't really about the movie itself. It's about Hollywood's tendency to get big name movie stars to just be a voice. Like, Bradley Cooper's great as Rocket Raccoon.
Right.
Vin Diesel is great as Groot. But there's voice actors that could have done both for, like, pennies on the dollar for what you did, and they would have sounded just as good or even better.
I get what you mean. Yeah,
like there's Billy West, Nolan North, people like that.
Yeah, because
voice they voice 20 characters in the same show, and you never know it.
Yep.
Like we should not be killing that art form just because we think saying Bradley Cooper's in this movie will sell more tickets.
That's 100%. At least Vin Diesel, because like. I mean, because Bradley Cooper has a lot more to work with.
Yeah.
With Rocket.
Yeah.
But like the whole Groot thing, I do completely agree because you didn't need Vin Diesel for it. He literally says 3 words, always. And oh my bad, he changes I to we in like one scene in this movie.
We are Groot.
So
yeah.
4. He says 4
That's
different words.
So uplifting.
But like. I do completely agree with you on that. It's just a way to sell more tickets, as if the cast wouldn't already sell in the first place. But I mean, then again, Chris Pratt wasn't as much of a selling point at that time as he is now.
Yeah.
Given the success of
Guardians was the first one. See, the whole MCU was built on what were considered B-list superheroes from the comics.
Yeah.
And they've become A-list superheroes because of it. Guardians of the Galaxy is like D-list.
Yeah.
and
they kind of played that up in
the
movie,
it was
I had no idea who they were.
It was the first one that most even comics fans were like, what's this movie about again? So my father was, I think, very excited, but the Guardians of the Galaxy comics that he read were not.
And how old?
My dad's pushing 70.
My dad.
My dad.
So he read like the original Spider-Man comics,
right?
So Guardians from the late 60s, early 70s, whatever. I think they started then. Yondu, I guess, was in it. Maybe pretty early on. None of these other characters had even been created. This lineup of Guardians of the Galaxy is, I think, post 2000.
Oh,
So it was.
wow.
They were really like, not only is this not a particularly popular title, it's not unpopular in that a lot of people hated it. It's just unknown.
Yeah.
But like they're like, this is a lineup that's really recent, so we're not going to get multiple generations of people that are like, wow, they actually made a movie of this.
Yeah, definitely. It seems like they took quite a risk
Absolutely.
with this movie.
Yep.
And I'm very glad that it paid off, because
Yeah.
it really is a super fun group to watch and to be with for, like 2 hours.
Yeah.
Um,
I love when Rocket presents his, like, he's like, I'm gonna need this and this and this and this, and it's just like one of the things you just
his
thought
leg.
it would be funny to have that guy's leg.
yeah.
Um,
That's kind of like a gag for basically every time he's in a movie.
Yes.
He like just wants something, especially in Infinity War when he asks Bucky for the gun and the arm, and he goes, "Oh, I'm getting that arm." Like, just random. It's great. I love it. So I mean, if there's really not much else to say about Guardians just being a very awesome movie,
just love James Gunn.
yeah,
that's
James
what I was
Gunn
going
is
to mention. Actually,
yeah.
it's just the controversy surrounding him.
Okay.
I'm not really sure if there really is much controversy surrounding him anymore. I think that kind of blew over really, really quick. But if you all
Delete
remember
your
in,
old
like,
posts, I guess.
2019 or 18
Yeah.
or something like that, Disney just quick
Like,
canceled them.
we
They were
don't.
like, no, we don't work
we
with
want
you
that.
anymore.
Yeah.
Because
And
of,
everyone was like, hey,
what was like
why?
10-year-old tweet.
Yeah.
Why is that happening?
Yeah. For things it's for things Marvel knew about before they hired him.
Yep.
That he had already apologized for, and that were sort of connected to his early movie making career was all about like sort of offensive and weird movies.
Yeah.
And yeah, but anyway, he definitely he was one of the people that least deserved to be hit by cancel culture, and he seems to have recovered.
Which is good. Very, very good. Because he is returning for Guardians 3.
Yeah.
So, let's hope that continues.
I'd like to ask one other question
Go for it.
as well, and this is just a personal opinion that I hold for anyone that's going to get mad at me for it. I think that using music in a movie that is just pop music is kind of lazy, and I think that it actually does a disservice to the movie or to the show in most cases, because it makes the audience forget about the movie
And focus
think,
more on the music.
oh yeah, this is just a song that I play in the radio.
Yeah, that part
when
where
I go
Led
to work.
Zeppelin plays. Yeah.
And so like Guardians of the Galaxy was pretty much a jukebox musical, right?
Yeah.
Like it
Yes.
just played on songs that everyone loved, and it was all for character development purpose of Peter Quill.
Quill.
Cool. Yep.
And so yeah, I just wanted to ask, did that affect your guys' enjoyment of the movie at all? Or do
No,
you like
because
the music?
I think it's an integral part of this movie.
yeah.
Yeah, because he was in. That's the only
Remnant of his
connection.
mom, right?
Yeah, he has left with his mom. And
Yeah.
to be fair, when I was younger, I didn't know what the songs were. It kind of opened the
All right, it's
door
just new
to-
music for you, yeah.
Yeah, so like
That's
I was
cool.
sitting there, I'm like, okay, like this is fun. Like come and get yo. Like I was like, yeah, this is great. Like sure, go for it. But it is if it's used in like just for no reason type thing, then I completely agree with what you're with what you were saying. But like in this scenario, it's kind of just part of Quill's personality.
Yeah.
It's
Okay,
like-
so yeah, props to you, James Gunn. You chose the right music.
Yeah, like the awesome-tacular mix or whatever he calls it, or awesome mix volume,
One.
whatever.
It's volume 1.
Volume 1, yeah.
First movie, right.
So, like, it definitely makes sense to me, at least in that regard.
All
I
right.
agree.
Well, that's good.
So the next one now is Ultron.
Age of Ultron.
Avengers Age of Ultron.
The
The
second
sequel,
Avengers movie.
Yep.
I was happy with it in the theaters, and then unhappy with it a few months later.
It's a very... yeah,
that is my official
You really
stance.
have to, like, it all depends on the person, I feel, with this movie. Because I know people who think this movie is trash. I know other people who think this movie is really good. I know other people who think it was just okay.
I'm kind of one of those people.
I definitely think... I mean, to be honest, I feel like it's pretty obvious without even mentioning it that this is the weakest Avengers movie.
I would
Right,
agree with
like,
that.
that's
That's
literally
why
the
it gets
easiest thing.
So forgotten about.
So, like, because it's the weakest one, it's the most forgettable, whatever.
So James Spader as Ultron, again, it bothers me
That they
getting
bring
a
in
bankable,
yeah.
but he's in recent years more of a television star than a movie
so
star.
did you like him as...
Nobody does a voice that's dripping with menace, but is not cartoonish like James Spader.
I agree.
If you want to go cartoonish, get Mark Hamill.
Yeah.
But James Spader is. I like he can just, his voice can just give you chills.
Yeah.
And so like it's a great choice for a voice. I do think that anything that a screen actor can do with their voice can be done at least as well as someone who specializes in voice acting.
Right.
And someone else could have done that as well, but if you're gonna pay somebody over $1 million to just sit in a recording booth for a few hours, then James Spader is a good choice. And it was great, the continuation of like Tony desperately trying to protect our planet because he realized how insignificant we are and that we've called attention to ourselves.
Yep.
And I really like the interplay between Bruce Banner and Tony Stark.
I completely agree with you. Some of
highlight
my
of this
favorite
movie.
Marvel scenes are just talking.
Yeah.
And it's definitely, especially when it's Banner and Stark together. I loved it a lot in the first one, and this one just gave me more of that, so I absolutely was all for it.
Yeah.
I completely agree.
I have a problem with this movie simply for the decision to have Ultron be created by Tony Stark and Bruce Banner. Mm-hmm. When in the comics, Hank Pym creates Ultron.
No way.
Really?
Yeah. And
For anyone who doesn't know, that was the first Ant-Man.
yes. And Hank Pym is far more like Tony Stark has an alcoholism problem in the comics. Mm-hmm. He's mostly dealt with it at this point, but especially throughout the 90s, that was a huge. That was what Iron Man was about. It was about alcohol. And Bruce Banner, of course, is exactly Dr. Jekyll, really, for Marvel.
Yeah.
So they are flawed but brilliant guys. But Hank Pym is like beat his wife and still was a superhero in the comics. Like he's a very flawed person, and
I'm glad they didn't
That's
incorporate
also-
that into
yeah, I was
Ant-Man.
gonna
no.
say-
I am glad they did. They
Yeah.
kind of hit on it early that he wasn't like the greatest guy, but they didn't need
Remove
to
the-
bring domestic abuse into the MCU.
Yeah, that would have
That's
been a very bad look.
But knowing that the same time they were making Age of Ultron, they were making Ant-Man.
Right.
Knowing that they were bringing Hank Pym into the MCU, there should have just been a mention of like one of the many things that came together to make Ultron. Should have been like here's an AI my dad stole from Hank Pym that we can
Kind of like a toss away line type thing.
just to make him have a part in it.
Right.
Rather than
Would have made sense then that the next movie was Ant-Man too.
Yes.
Like
Yes.
that kind of feels
But that's
obvious. That
once
they would add that
again,
in.
that's funny that you bring the comic aspect into this because
it doesn't affect the movie itself.
Yeah, but like it's interesting to know that side of things because I mean I could have been none the wiser thinking that Tony made Ultron for the sake of protecting just Earth as a
Right.
whole.
Right.
So, like, it does absolutely make sense that some people could get annoyed with Tony and Banner being the ones that made it and not even acknowledging Hank Pym. That is a very interesting point to think about, because I know some people think that Ultron was wasted in this movie.
Oh, absolutely.
I do.
And to be fair, I do agree as well.
And
He just becomes an afterthought, and I wish that didn't happen for him.
He does. He has a lot of build-up,
Yeah.
I feel, and not enough boom at the end.
yeah,
What I honestly
thing.
think happened with this movie is, like, Marvel, in their quest to make this epic trilogy, I keep saying trilogy, I'm thinking of phases.
yeah. This
Needed-
whole epic franchise.
Yes,
Needed to
thank
make
you.
a middleman or something. Like, is that what you're trying to...
What I'm trying to say is that they had gigantic wins, and then they had, like Thor: The Dark World, which was their bottom of the barrel.
Right.
This movie did not reach that fantastic high that some Marvel
yeah.
movies did, and this movie did not reach as low as some of the other movies did. And honestly, that for me just kind of leaves it as an outlier, right? Even
Right.
a good Marvel movie is a bad Marvel movie because they
There's-
have
yeah.
great Marvel movies.
Yeah.
And when it's not great,
It's kinda
forgettable.
forgettable. Yeah.
and that's what happened with Age of Ultron for me.
This movie was a tug of war between a name director that
Yeah.
had credibility in this genre.
Being Joss Whedon.
Yeah. And a powerhouse production company that has learned they don't want to work with directors that are established.
Being Disney.
Marvel,
yeah.
Marvel itself, like
because there was a lot of drama in the back.
The MCU has redefined what it is to be a director, because you don't get final say in what goes into your movie.
Yeah.
Like it used to be that they're like, oh hey, it's too long, figure out a way to cut it down.
Right.
Oh, but
And-
now Kevin Feige has to sign off.
Yeah,
on the
and-
fact
well,
that
and he-
fits in with his vision.
It does not even sign off. He's like, here's a scene that I need in this movie because it sets up something that's 3 movies down the road.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I can't figure out how to make it work. I can't, like, Joss Whedon did not want Thor to go have like a psychedelic vision in a pool in a cave that had nothing to do with anything
Right.
that was happening on Earth.
Yeah,
But-
because
Yeah, they needed it. And they were like, well, why don't you take out that stupid farmhouse stuff? Because that's just a boring diversion. There's no action. He's like, yeah, but character is important too.
Yeah,
And they're
because
like,
I really like that scene.
Yeah.
Personally,
Yeah.
I really like it.
so each side had a problem with a particular scene that extended the runtime of the movie, and what the compromise was like, well, we keep both, and thereby make the movie longer. And I think they needed to cut out stuff with Ultron in order to get in the stuff with the heroes that they wanted to.
That is really disappointing.
It is, because I like all of it. Like
The first thought
like,
that came into my mind was make 2 movies, but then they would have gotten some haters with that, right?
yeah, because some of my favorite parts with this movie is a lot of the Avengers scenes that don't involve them doing anything action oriented. That whole scene of them trying to lift Thor's hammer when they're all just sitting down, drinking a couple beers, whatever, having fun. I love that scene.
That was
Yeah.
a good race.
Like,
Good, right?
and especially the nice little subtle hint of Cap barely moving it,
Yeah.
and Thor just immediately going, "Excuse me,"
Yeah.
and then
Yeah.
was just like, yeah, you can't lift it though.
That
Thanks.
set up debate. Like, people were arguing for years, still arguing. Like, could he almost lift it, but he couldn't quite because he wasn't worthy yet, or was he like, I know this is gonna hurt Thor's feelings, so once I realize I can lift it, I'm gonna not.
Both are so plausible.
But it's just, to me, it's just as kind of silly of an argument as who shot first.
Yeah.
It's just kinda like McClunky.
For anyone that doesn't know, Disney edited Star Wars A New Hope yet again.
Yeah, did they
And,
make it so Han shoots first or something, right? I think it's a weird edit.
It's a weird edit, and so what ends up happening is that there's not a clear answer of who shot first yet again. It's just a shot of Greedo, and he just goes Maklanki and shoots.
Yeah. But regardless, this movie has a lot of character moments that I love. Mainly because I already love the characters, so anything that increases my love for them is automatically like a brownie points for me.
Yeah.
This movie was a little slower on the action scale, yes, than comparatively speaking to other Avengers movies. And I do think there are a lot of really cool moments with Ultron. My gripes with the movie is I think some of the humor was a little too much. I personally do not like the Hulk and Black Widow type thing. The whole, hey, big guy, sun's getting real low garbage that they make fun of in Ragnarok, I thought was very stupid, honestly. And I also don't... I wish there was more Ultron, and... I don't know, it's just like... Because I can't hate the movie, but I don't love it. But there are things I really like in the movie. So it's like, it's kind of in the weird middle ground, as we were just mentioning. Like, it is kind of just there for me.
Cole, you were saying you don't like...
oh, yeah, that's right. You didn't like
I don't like the
Quicksilver
twins, and I also don't like Vision.
Really?
Yeah.
See, I love Vision, but I'm talking about Vision from the comics.
I'm not.
They just...
Was Vision, in your eyes, in terms of the MCU, wasted?
Yes.
Okay.
He's just a cool character that it examines like what it is to be, a person, and in the Scarlet Witch and Vision were in the West Coast Avengers in the 90s. It was a separate title, and I think at the time Janet Van Dyne, aka Wasp, Hank Pym's wife, she was, for the most of the time that I was reading it, she was the leader of that the West Coast Avengers, and so there's an interesting thing with Scarlet Witch. There was a guy called Wonder Man, Wonder Man is a superhero who also just doesn't want to stop being a movie star, and so he makes... It's a lot like in The Boys, where they make movies.
It's a very boys-based hero name.
God, I love The Boys.
So he makes movies about him being a superhero, and they don't need to do a bunch of special effects because he's got the powers. So he was the person... They scanned his brain and like gave his brain patterns to Vision to give Vision some personality.
Who would have thought a backstory would have been cool?
Yeah. And so Vision falls in love with Wanda because Wonder Man was secretly in love with Wanda.
Oh, so my God, this is fixing all of my problems.
That does make a lot more sense than just kind of...
And then Vision gets kind of rebooted, and he doesn't have emotions, and they're trying to navigate this relationship of, like, he's not quite the guy he used to be, but he does in his own way care about her, and she loves him, but he's not the same guy. And then she realizes, like, anyway,
it's such an engaging story.
Yes.
I want to be a part of that.
But the outfit she wore would make you be like, let's just go back to the way things were.
Maybe it would.
Stupid looking costume. But anyway, I loved Vision mostly because I loved Data on
It was
Star
just
Trek
Data in
Next Generation.
spandex with a different accent. It wasn't good.
And yeah, I just don't think Vision was given the time to become a good character. He was the MacGuffin in this.
Yeah.
He was the thing that solved their problem,
Yep.
and then they didn't really know what to do with him anymore because he's too powerful.
Yeah, so they just
Keep him around.
they put him in a room and to watch Scarlet Witch in Civil War, and then he just dies in Infinity War. But I mean, who knows? He might actually get a lot of coverage in WandaVision, I would hope.
He definitely is.
Like, to the point where, maybe Cole's opinion may or may not be swayed.
It might. Look, here's my thinking, is that it felt like they were like, oh, we want Vision.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, well, what do we do if we want Vision? Oh, well, he needs his love interest. Mm-hmm. Oh, well, how are we going to get her in there? We can't just put her in there. Well, well, what if she has a brother? Oh, okay, so now it's like a Wonder Twins thing, and we're going to put them in the whole... Oh, yeah, they can join the Avengers, but they shouldn't just be there. How are we going to get them there, right? Oh, okay, well, they're prisoners of the bad guy at the beginning of the movie. They'll beat them, they'll just grab the two. Oh, the brother's dead now. Mm-hmm. So now we just have the girl and the guy, and she's going to fall in love with him because that's what girls do to guys. So...
I will agree that...
we have a dead
that's
brother.
What girls do to guys.
It's just so stupid!
I will agree that the whole love interest with Vision is a little odd.
It was forced because they're like,
yeah,
this is just what happened in the comics.
Yeah. So like, I
it
agree
felt
with
lazy
that.
to me. I don't like lazy.
Now, I should say I think the complication here is that Disney didn't own Fox yet, because Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver are brother and sister in the comics.
Right.
They are
and I saw the new X-Men movie at the time that had Quicksilver in it.
And that was confusing, right?
Yes.
And that was confusing,
Yeah.
and I liked that scene more.
Yeah, so
and
they
are...
this wasn't true initially, and then it was, and then they kind of changed it, and then they came back to it. But throughout much of the history of comics, Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch are the children of Magneto.
What?
Magneto's not in the MCU.
Yeah, right.
But it makes them have kind of split loyalties, because Magneto's a villain most of the time, even though he kind of sees himself as like Charles Xavier is the Martin Luther King of mutant rights, and Magneto is the Malcolm X.
Yeah.
And so
great dynamics.
It's
so good.
It's from some people's perspective, Magneto's not a villain, and
right.
and certainly from his own children's perspective, you can see how they would sometimes agree with him and sometimes fight him if they're if they're Avengers. But if you don't have the right to put Magneto into your movie, it's a little difficult to make these characters have that split loyalty.
Thank you so much for saying that. That sheds so much light on on like the darkest part of this movie for me. Really.
I don't think Quicksilver was originally going to be in this movie. I think that came from Kevin Feige with like, okay, so technically the X-Men movies do have the right to put Quicksilver in there because he is connected to X-Men, and he is on the list of characters they can use, but he is also on the list of characters we can use, so they're using him, so we need to use him too, or else we never will be able to. And then somehow that just became like, and then we don't want to anyway, so let's just kill him off.
Yep.
Yeah.
That sucked to me. That really...
I mean, they gave him a decent actor, too. I mean, Aaron Taylor-Johnson, you just gave him Quicksilver and then just kind of...
took it away.
And made him not as cool as the X-Men version. And also...
Yeah, I mean, they were both They were both in Godzilla as well.
That was what I was going to say.
Yeah.
It messed with my head that they were playing... that I saw Godzilla first. Yeah. And they were playing husband and wife.
Yes. And then brother and sister.
They play brother and sister in the next movie I see either of them in.
Yeah, it's like, That
happened to me with Divergent and that Cancer book.
That Cancer book? What, Fault in Our Stars?
Yeah! The Fault in Our Stars. That's what it is.
So yeah, I do agree. I think there are parts of this movie that are absolutely forgettable 100%, because it was only recently that when we were going to talk about the MCU as a whole, that I just kind of sat back and went, oh, that's right. Like, Age of Ultron is a thing.
Is this the movie... This sets up some important stuff in the future for Civil War, right? Like, this is the reason that Civil War happens?
This is when Sokovia just kind of just drops.
Yeah.
Okay. And and all that stuff. So it ends up becoming the catalyst for the Sokovia Accords.
Yeah.
Right. Which is the analog to that is the Superhero Registration Act in the comics. Civil War.
I believe you've explained that to me.
So
we don't have to get into that now.
Yeah, we'll definitely discuss that when we get to that point. But I mean, closing statement for Ultron is
Still a good movie.
Has good parts in it.
Sadly, the weakest Avengers movie.
Yes. To be fair, though, the Avengers bar is ridiculously high.
Yes, it is.
And it's
Yes, it really is.
got a lot of pressure.
You know what brought this way below that bar for me?
What?
Thanos' mid-credit scene.
Oh, yeah.
He said, "Fine, I'll do it myself."
But what was he doing?
are you talking about?
Yep.
You didn't set up the events of this movie.
When I first saw this movie, I thought like, that makes a lot of sense because for some reason I think I just put in my head like, oh, so Ultron was working for Thanos,
Right? But
like,
he just
then I
was
like, wait,
made.
what?
But like,
Yeah.
sure. There, at least one of the Infinity Stones played a part. The one from the Scepter, the Mind
The
Stone.
Mind Stone.
Yes, played a part. But you did that. That was not part of your plan. That was just still lying around because your previous plan didn't work.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's very, very true.
Trying to tie up some loose ends without there being loose ends to tie.
Who are you talking to? What are you talking about?
Was he just like watching Earth on TV and was like, "Oh, this guy will kill exactly half of Earth"?
Yep.
Maybe.
I
don't know.
That Sokovia chunk will approximately kill 50% of it.
Maybe he was referencing the fact that Loki failed.
But then, like...
Because he said Loki, right?
I thought he didn't send Loki.
I think all he said was, "Fine, I'll do it myself."
Yeah, because he literally just... grabs
I know that was his whole scene. I thought that it was confirmed that like he was controlling Loki with the Mind Stone.
Oh, no. They made that up, like...
after the fact?
I think
whatever.
Just before Endgame came out, they were like,
just a bunch
"Hey,
of
everyone,
loose
just so you know, Loki was being controlled by the Mind Stone, and he's not as evil as he seemed from the first Avengers."
So it's just a lot of early phase loose end stuff that you just kind of have to deal with. Fair enough.
Well, moving on to our final movie in Phase 2.
Yes, Ant-Man.
Ant-Man.
Now, this is another character that I wouldn't go as far as to say he was a D-list hero, was he? Or was he
No. Ant-Man is, I believe, an original Avenger.
Really?
I think it was Thor. Hulk was not, because the Avengers formed to fight the Hulk.
Yes.
So Thor, Iron Man,
the Hulk.
The other one, Captain America, and Ant-Man.
Right.
And so it's interesting. If Iron Man and Thor and all those guys I said, if Iron Man, Thor, Captain America, and Hulk were B-list in the comics for a long time, then Ant-Man was C-list.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
So, and just to be clear, like the A-listers would be X-Men, particularly Wolverine, Spider-Man, of course, the flagship character of Marvel, since he existed, pretty much, and like the Fantastic Four, the first family of superheroes.
Oh, what a wild ride for them they've had.
Oh yeah,
film-wise,
they just got boring for a long time, and they were owned by Fox for movies.
So this movie was actually supposed to be the first in the first movie of the third phase.
Yeah.
Of Marvel,
okay.
But it was pushed to be the last of the second phase. I don't actually know why that is. I just know that.
Maybe they just thought it might have fit a little bit better for some reason. Maybe. In the
because so what happens in this movie, right? We're introduced to Scott Lang, who is Paul Rudd.
He is he's a criminal.
Yep, he's a criminal, and he breaks in and steals the Ant-Man suit from Hank Pym, correct? And Hank Pym is like, "Oh, I see that you're good enough to take this from me. So why don't you put it to use and work for me?" No. He's on parole, and he like manipulates him, right?
Yeah, Hank Pym set the whole thing up to
get him to be Ant-Man.
He wanted a thief to be Ant-Man just to help him with one thing he needed.
That's right. Okay,
Yes.
so as you're seeing, I'm rediscovering Ant-Man here.
Yes.
I really liked that. I love Paul Rudd.
Yeah.
And this
Paul
movie
Rudd
is
is
written by
really-
Adam McKay and Paul Rudd, who Adam McKay writes a lot of John C. Reilly movies with Will Ferrell.
Yep.
Yes.
And actually, the first draft by Edgar Wright and I think Joe Cornish. Yep, it is on your screen.
They left.
So
Or Ed left.
Actually, originally this was supposed to be written and directed by Edgar Wright. Edgar Wright is
He left a year before it was going to
very funny. Frequently works with Simon Pegg and Nick Frost.
Yes. Yes.
So this was the other. It's the flip side of the coin of the tug of war of director and producer in the MCU. Of Edgar Wright is an established writer and director of hilarious movies, and Marvel was like, yeah, but it still has to be a Marvel movie. You can't just use a character and make your movie. And he was like, I'm not putting in the stuff you want to put in just for world building for other movies. I'm making a good movie. And they're like, that's not what we do here.
Yeah. It has to be a part of something. Has to have some sort of significance to the overall MCU.
So he took off.
In some respects, do you think it could have been better?
Oh, it absolutely would have been a better movie.
Yeah.
It might not have been
A better Marvel movie,
right.
though.
Right. That
So
makes sense.
and honestly, they didn't take any chances until
No, because why should they? This was gonna be the first of their next phase.
yeah.
Yeah.
So and they
Oh, that's why it got delayed, because their director left.
yeah.
Yeah.
So weird that it got delayed and it made it get pushed up in the schedule.
Maybe delay is the wrong word.
But Adam McKay and Paul Rudd certainly
Are very funny people.
their touch-ups or complete rewrite or we'll never know how much they did.
Yeah.
It says here, I don't know how accurate it is, but just from it, a screenplay written by Edgar Wright and Joe Cornish, and then a story written by, the story was written by Wright and Cornish, and then
The screenplay was written by Wright, Cornish, McKay, and Rudd.
Right. Okay.
That's just how Hollywood credits work.
Yeah.
If you
They
don't
came
throw
in-
out the entire script,
You have
You
to
got it,
before.
yeah.
even like you can go through so many rewrites that the original person, not a single word is still used from their script. But like
they wrote.
You used a shot. that
you
they
built
used.
on it,
Yeah.
you know. It's,
Yeah. So it's kind of like
if you built on something that
Yeah.
was built on it, then they get credit. But anyway, yeah. So, I love the casting of Michael Douglas as.
I agree. As Hank Pym.
Yeah, and this is the first Michael Douglas that has been brought into the MCU, but a second one was brought in much later.
Yes.
What do you mean?
Michael Keaton's real name is Michael Douglas.
Oh my gosh, you're right. Oh my gosh.
Very true.
Anyway,
I freaking loved Michael Keaton as the Vulture.
Yeah, I can't wait. We'll
Yeah.
can't wait to discuss
Yeah.
that when we get there.
my problem with much, especially Phase 1 and Phase 2 for the MCU, is the villains don't appear to have any motivation other than like
I'm
a
evil.
total awareness that they're evil
Yeah.
and a belief that that's okay.
Not the Vulture, though. We can't talk
Right.
about
Yeah,
But
yeah.
we won't talk about that.
Discussion for another time.
But certainly Yellow Jacket, actually.
that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, because he really is just kind of like,
I
I'm
am the bad guy.
and I want a suit.
Yeah.
That's
Wouldn't
cool.
it be cool if I just was really powerful and rich?
Wouldn't it be cool if I was just another Obadiah Stane?
Yeah.
And that's basically it. I mean, he's bald too. Like, it literally is just a smaller scale version of Obadiah.
Yep.
I feel like this actually served as like what like Spider-Man serves for before Spider-Man was in the MCU. And what I mean by that is like Peter Parker is kind of a low-life nobody in the grand
Yeah.
scheme of things.
And
Hank,
Scott-
not Hank, Scott is a nobody criminal. And it shows that it's not, you don't have to be the millionaire playboy. You don't have to be the guy that got the super serum. You just got to be a guy. And that's what Spider-Man was all about.
Yeah.
And I think that this movie helps that thrive.
Yeah.
Yeah, because, I mean, Scott does have... I mean, he does have, like, a decent motivation to do all this stuff. He has a daughter of his own.
Yeah.
And
It's
all that
heartbreaking.
stuff.
He gets, like, divorced from his wife and everything.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, you know, it's all in the grand scheme of things, he does all of it for his daughter.
It's a much more humanistic way to look at
Yeah.
superheroes than
Yeah,
they have taken before.
Yeah. I definitely think this movie, it's not a bad movie by any means. I thought it was going to be, because I thought Ant-Man was, like, the dumbest sounding hero imaginable.
Yeah, it took me
Especially,
a while.
like,
It
now,
sounds
it's
like someone was like, Spider-Man's popular.
That's
What can we
exactly
make
what
of
I
it?"
thought.
Yeah, like...
Choose another insect.
Yeah, because we just had, like, all these movies about, like, guys and basically just... like these full metal suits that are capable of wiping out a continent on their own if they wanted to. You have the Hulk, you have this super soldier, and then you have a guy who can go tiny. Yeah. And it was just kind of like, it just seemed really weird and like kind of low on the power spectrum that they kind of built in the MCU. So I wasn't excited to see this movie at all until I saw it, and I was like, wow, actually the movie was good.
You know what though? Looking at the 6 movies that are in Phase 2, I'd say Ant-Man was one of the best.
Yes. Phase
Well, it's
2,
definitely not one of the 2 worst.
No,
right.
not at all. Phase 2 is pretty rocky as a whole.
Yeah, it is.
It's a very bumpy road. There's redeeming qualities in
that
Phase
bumpy
2.
road,
but like overall, it is definitely the weakest phase.
Yeah.
And
I'd agree with
it's
that.
the middle child. It's that weird
they gotta connect
stuff
Phase 1
in
and 2,
between.
so.
Like, you know, you have a really strong beginning, and you know, well, not that I'm saying they know where the end's gonna go, but once they actually started figuring that out, and we're like, oh, okay, so we just need to make movies that branch to those points.
Yeah.
So it suffers from being a bridge.
It has my favorite product placement of all movies, I think.
Ant-Man?
Phase 2 does, but it's Ant-Man in particular. And that
You
is...
gotta remind me.
Baskin Robbins, we're a horrible and degrading place to work. Try our drinks.
I also like that, like, the climax of this movie is, like, entirely on, like, a miniature scale. And they're, like, fighting on a... If I remember correctly, it was, like, a little mini, like, toy set, right? Because it was, like, a train or something.
Oh, yeah, in
was
his
going
daughter's
through.
room.
Yeah, and, like, it just seems so epic at their size, and, like, you know...
Doesn't
from,
it, like, zoom out for a second? And
yeah,
it's
and it's
just
just
silent?
kind of,
Yeah.
like, super silent. Like, it's... I do like that. It was very, very fun.
They wanted to use the Thomas the Tank Engine, and they went through maybe more than Marvel has ever... Like, more back and forth about what can and can't be done.
Really?
Yeah, because it's
Just to
like
try
you
and make
can't
Thomas
you
the
can't
Tank
make
Engine.
Thomas the villain. Like, he can't be scary. Like, no matter what threat no matter how threatening the situation has to seem, Thomas has to seem friendly, and we can't have kids see this movie and then be scared of Thomas. And so
Wow, I didn't realize how protective Thomas
if your
was
whole
of Thomas.
yeah, I mean, if your whole brand is just a kid's mascot, and then all of a sudden your audience is scared of him, I guess that.
Yeah, I wonder what they have to say to the Elder Scrolls modders that make him the dragons.
Oh my god! Or like when Meat Canyon made a Thomas the Train video. If anyone knows who that is in the comments section.
Okay, does anyone have anything else to say about Ant-Man?
Overall, I don't think it was a bad movie. I don't think it was
Definitely not
amazing.
stellar, but a good movie.
It was way better than it should have been in my eyes. I thought it was literally just going to be terrible, but...
I love the exposition device that they use with Michael Pena's character.
Yeah.
They sort of ripped off Drunk History, but that's okay.
Yeah.
Just having him tell the story and see other people's lips move to it. It was cool. I don't think they need to keep using it every time Ant-Man's in a movie, but they do.
Yeah.
It was funny the first time.
It was great the first time.
No, the expression, beating a dead horse. So yeah, I mean...
So let's take a look now at the 6 movies that we just looked at and do what we did last time and just give them a rating 1 through 6. right? Here are our movies: Iron Man 3, Thor: The Dark World, Captain America: The Winter Soldier, Guardians of the Galaxy, Avengers: Age of Ultron, and Ant-Man.
My personal ranking: Winter Soldier's at the top, then Guardians, then Ant-Man, then Age of Ultron, then Iron Man 3, then Thor: Dark World.
My list is basically the same, except I think personally I would flip Ultron and Ant-Man.
You think
Ultron's
Ultron is better
than
than
Ant-Man?
Ant-Man?
Yes, only because I'm a sucker for James Spader and Avengers character moments as a whole.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess
I think I'd agree with you, actually, Brendan.
it's the smaller, it's the whole like gotta enjoy the little things type thing that I love those moments.
Mm-hmm.
Like when we were talking about like the farm scene and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Like I love when I love it when Tony and Steve are always just kind of like always just about to kill each other, but they're both respectable and they're friends kind of. So it's just kind of like a I want to kill you. Yeah, well,
I want to
try
kill
me.
you.
And it's like, we're even. And then then all of a sudden Tony's still witty about it, like don't take from my pile, like and stuff like that. So I would personally put Ultron higher for those specific reasons.
But we can agree that Captain America: The Winter Soldier is the best movie in Phase 2.
Yes.
I agree.
And we can agree that Thor: The Dark World is the worst movie in Phase 2.
Yes, I hands down completely
All right.
agree.
Well,
And
there
that
you
is
have
our
it.
list for Phase 2. Thank you guys so much for watching, or listening, I should say. We will be jumping into the craziest phase out of all
final one.
three. And definitely hope you guys are along for the ride in that. Thank you once again for Nate being our guest of honor the second time.
stay tuned for the epic conclusion of Take 47 next week.
No, it's not. You're ending the podcast?
No! Sorry.
Ending of the MCU! That's
Take-
what we were talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah. We will see you guys next time.
Later.